The story begins with a fight between a knight of the Empire Fordgul Arten and a barbarian named Ulrich who belongs to the Rock Axe tribe, as they pay respect to the concept of honor before engaging in the last fight of their life. As all of their friends and allies are dead, none of them have anything to lose. Ulrich throws away his sword before crashing onto his opponent's shield, getting him confused. He uses the slight chance to punch the heck out of Arten as he crushes all his fingers at the same time, and the moment his opponent gets an opening, they both end up slashing their vitals at the same time. It is clear that Ulrich has won the duel, but he also falls down on the ground in next the minute as the stars of death and the night sky aurora call in for him in his head. While he is waiting for his death, the flashback of his past starts playing in the back of his head, in which he sees that the sorcerer granny he used to visit dreamed of him becoming a legendary warrior someday. Even though she always had high hopes for him, he never really believed that he would reach that point ever in his whole life. But the sorcerer claimed to have seen him in the nightmares as a warrior of light. She always said that Ulrich's activities will make the son of the chieftain jealous, as his name comes up often in chieftain discussions because of his great performance compared to the others. Even so, Ulrich doesn't have an interest in challenging the son of the chieftain, as he has no interest in following through the path of dominance. On his way back to the tribe village, he meets his companions, as they know they will find him near the shelter of the old sorcerer because of his love for her. That day, his companions were worried about him climbing the Sky Mountain range, since they believed that there must be a world of spirits past those mountains, feeling that he will never be able to come back if he ever goes beyond those mountains. But Ulrich is determined to cross the heights of the son of the chieftain, as he was able to catch a wolf the size of a cow a while back, and if he wants to overcome that level, it is more than necessary for him to climb all the way through that mountain. When his friends seem a little too worried about reaching the place, since even the elders do not wander around that part of the mountain, Ulrich calls them weasels, which ends up firing them up to live up to his expectations. After reaching almost the halfway mark, Ulrich continues to wonder what must be past the Sky Mountain range, as if it is the same thing that the elders and sorcerers always say, if it truly is a world for the deceased. Suddenly, his friends begin questioning him about his point of view on the topic of becoming the new chieftain, but it seems that his ideas are vague around that part. As they began to move through the lower peaks, Ulrich shouted for his companions as he noticed something. The arrows that pierced through his companions don't seem to be used by another tribe, as they are too perfect to be shaped by them. The moment he continues to wonder about a certain enemy group, the Knights of the Empire seem to be rushing down from the peaks of the mountain as they continue to follow their leader. When Ulrich notices that they have been surrounded by the enemy forces with their long-range attacks by occupying the higher grounds, he blames himself for endangering the lives of all his companions. He orders his mate Vold to get away with his wounded companions, as he wants to stop the enemy group from getting in between them. But Vold immediately refuses to move away without Ulrich, as they are sworn brothers. But he insists that he should get away from the situation that is in front of them. He warns him to get away as he is about to get his head crushed, and he elaborates that saving a brother in need is more important than dying together on the battlefield. More and more arrows are moving in their way, trying to wipe them off the face of the earth. Ulrich now dreams harder than ever to become the great warrior the sorcerer dreamed him to be. He believes that he will not die then, and there is he is a Rock Axe tribe member who will fight for his people. After moving above on the higher grounds, he continues to look for his enemy's location, needing to throw a spear to locate them while approaching them as fast as possible. As he moves in a higher position, he ends up throwing the spear in his hand, which ends up pointing to the enemy's location. After sliding in through the bush, he hears an uncanny language that he never heard before and clothes that he has never seen in his whole life, meaning that those enemies must have come from over the mountain range. After facing his enemies face to face, he ends up asking them about their whereabouts, but their language doesn't seem so familiar to him, so he decides to push through to finish them off, as they have already endangered the lives of his brothers, painting themselves as his sworn enemies. Suddenly, a man named Sir Fordgul enters the scene wearing steel armor, while believing that he must be able to push through any unexpected circumstances. As soon as he enters the scene, he claims to his companions that they are about to capture the barbarian ahead of him alive to get more information about him and his group. Ulrich instantly scans through every part of his body as the enemy ends up throwing his shield away, believing that his opponent is only a barbarian using an axe that cannot pierce through the set of his armors. The way Fordgul held his blade the other way made it look like he was underestimating his opponent, and it felt insulting to Ulrich, so he decided to push through more than ever. The blood rushes through Ulrich's veins, which makes him target the gap between his enemy's helmet, which ends up injuring Fordgul as they engage in a close call battle. The moment Ulrich makes a swing kick on his face, taking him down, all of the other soldiers continue to shoot arrows at Ulrich's back, while pulling him down with ropes trying to take him down. When they finally take him down using the ropes, Fordgul and his companions carry him through their lands as they continue to fear for his life, wondering what will happen if he dies before meeting the Emperor. But instead of fearing for his own life, Ulrich is happy to draw a conclusion that beyond the Sky Mountain range, there is another world with other humans existing, and it wasn't ever a place where the dead would go. Ulrich gets up slowly while freezing and realizes this might be the reason why the tribe warriors aren't able to cross over the mountain range. He keeps on laughing on his own as he cuts through the ropes to get on his 2 feet. After seeing that he was able to make his escape out of the ropes, he approaches them with a hope of revenge in his eyes. The soldiers continue to run away from him, while hoping that they will be able to save themselves from him. But it surely doesn't save them at all, as Ulrich tends to wake up from the land of countless dead bodies around his feet, looking right at Sky Peak, which is the land of his mother. Ulrich grabs a handful of his hair and decides to cut it all off with the help of the sword between his hands as he continues to move through the unknown snowy world. Somewhere else, a boy is running away from a bunch of other kids trying to save his life, but he ends up stumbling and falling over because of some rocks. While he continues to beg for his life, they all notice Ulrich, who is moving through the bush looking right at them. Ulrich tries to speak with them, knowing that they won't be able to understand whatever he is saying, but at the same time, he is curious to know what's going to happen. The guys realize he might be a foreigner as they have never heard of his language, while calling him a bum from the south. The leader of the gang tries to intimidate him, but it doesn't work for him, and he ends up getting his neck twisted by Ulrich as he falls down on the ground. None of the other guys could believe what just happened in front of them, and all of them reach their weapons above their heads as they rush into Ulrich with the hope of beating him down, but all they do is face their loss. The guy who is fearing for his life is more afraid now after witnessing something that he never expected to see, but Ulrich changes his mind by drawing houses and people stating that he wants him to take him to where their tribe is. Then the both of them continue to explore the lands while the guy keeps on introducing his city named Ankara to Ulrich. It seems that Ankara is able to prosper for quite a bit because of its copper mines which flow the economy, and the city is so big that it is quite overwhelming for Ulrich. The guy within thinks that he might be a traveler and doesn't know much about his part of the world around him, and that night they stop at a tavern where people gathered around to have drinks and food for the night. The guy tries his best to communicate with Ulrich, but it doesn't work at all since he doesn't understand a bit of what he is saying. When the guy searches for someone who could understand him, one of the guys from another table states that Ulrich looks like the men who come from the north, as the guys from the north are huge, while the people from the south are short and skinny. Ulrich realizes that he needs to be careful as their attitude changes if they knew he was from the Sky Mountain range. The guy with him decides that they can look for a translator, and the moment he was about to pay for the drink, Ulrich notices the coins and realizes those might be made by someone with a delicate touch. The trading in the new part of the world looks mind-blowing to him, as they only use dried meat or leather to trade with the other tribes, which get a smile on his face. Soon he notices that the weapons they use are much better than the ones that he used, which indicate that their technology must be so strong that they know how to handle steel. When Ulrich asks for an axe from the man, he thinks to himself that he must be a criminal who left his home, which gets him a chance to use Ulrich in his own favor, as he is quite stronger than the others. They barely keep up communicating with each other, and the man proposes to him the idea of earning some big money, which leads them to the Ankara gambling fighting ring. Ulrich understands that he needs to fight, but the guy tries his best to explain that he must not kill anybody while fighting, as it is considered a violation of the code. The fight begins, and after analyzing his opponent, Ulrich notices that the fighters are slow compared to the tribe warriors, and as nobody fights by betting their lives in here. But he still remembers Fordgul, who is a real warrior willing to put his life on the line, thinking that he will be able to meet a real warrior someday. The next afternoon, Ulrich wakes up from the shouting made by the man calling out for him, stating that he has to fight to earn money to repay the debt that they owe at the bar. Before Ulrich is about to leave the room with him, he notices the sword of Fordgul beside the chair, which makes him think for a while. Ulrich's new companion is quite confident of his strength, and he keeps calling in his opponents one by one. Even though Ulrich was expecting the fight to be as easy as the last one, that is not the case this time, as he gets multiple punches from his opponent, realizing that his body got rustier than before. The situation gets Ulrich to react so badly that he ends up taking his opponent's life in one single punch, which gets him kicked out of the fighting pit. The new troubling situation gets the cunning companion to think that he must conclude his business with Ulrich, while he ends up in a dilemma wondering about the reason why he wasn't able to adjust his strength for such a simple swing. Ulrich takes the sword in his hand and remembers the fight he had with Fordgel, in which he fought him to the death when staying alive was the only justice. He fixes his troubling mind and places his target on the sole reason why he left his hometown, which is to see the things that he didn't know of. The next day, his cunning companion takes him to a fighting pit where some guys are interested in buying him as a fighting slave. The men give him a hollow sword as if they are trying to test his skills as the trainer rushes into him with his sword trying to place his attack on him. But Ulrich sees through his moves and ends up disarming him in the process and gives the weapon back to his opponent. Then Ulrich throws away his own weapon while provoking his opponent to come at him, but the guy ends up getting disarmed once again as he falls down on the ground. At the end of the fight, the guys that were seeing him fight set up his price at 15 million seals, and when Ulrich realizes what was going on, he ends up stealing the sword from one of the men and slashing down the hand of his cunning companion. But it doesn't end there. It seems that Ulrich knows the Imperial language, and the moment his ex-companion tries to bargain with him, he finishes him off by cutting off his tongue. When the monstrosity ends, the slave trader of the group who wanted to buy him tries to head off from the place, realizing that Ulrich isn't someone that can be tamed by him. But Ulrich ends up negotiating with him, wanting to work as a gladiator as they both get introduced to each other, and this is how he gets welcomed to the Horus Gladiator team.